So I've been away and a lot has happened. Of course it has. So we're going to be talking about the Labour Party. This video is going to be quite broad, actually, because there's so much that I've missed. But we're going to start with the 3 by-elections. And there's a lot of expectation management from the Labour Party of how well they did. If you ask me, I think has been quite poor. Now, why is that? Am I being biased? Well, we have 3 by-elections. Somerton and Frome, Selby and Ainstey. I think I've said that right. Uxbridge and South Ruislip. Again, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Now, the Conservatives only held on to 1, so it's not been a good night for the Tories. But we thought, well, the expectation was that Labour would smash all 3 elections, and that's not what happened. We had a really big Lib Dem gain in Somerton and Frome. The gain was a majority of 11,000, and they got 55% of the vote. The Tories held it in 2019, 2017, 2015, so that's an incredible victory for the Liberal Democrats. Labour did have a really good win in Selby and Ainstey. They now have a majority of 4,161. The Tories have held in the last 3 general elections. They actually overcame a huge deficit. It was a 23.7 swing, and actually broke the record for the largest Conservative majority it had overturned at a by-election since 1945. So that is, of course, really good. But the one we are all looking at is Uxbridge and South Ruislip, which is Boris Johnson's old seat. Polling showed that Labour were going to win by double digits. Of course, the national polling shows Labour winning an election by double digits, but this specific seat, Labour should have absolutely trounced it. Well, the Tories held on to the seat just by 495, so it was a really slim margin, but that was something Labour should have easily won. Now, some people are engaging in expectation management. They're blaming the Lib Dems and the Greens because there was only 500 votes in it. And had people just voted tactically, well, Labour would have won. The thing is, people did vote tactically because it was really close. Now, it was a huge majority. So if you look at the last results since 2019, the Tories lost 7.5%. Labour gained 5%. First of all, it shows that the polls were completely out of whack. They massively underperformed. But if you look at the Liberal Democrats vote, they lost 4.6%. We can't know categorically where exactly the swings came from. Some might look at this and say, okay, well, the Conservatives lost 7% of the vote and 5% went to Labour, so that's a straight swing. It's not always that easy, because if the Lib Dems lost almost 5% and the Labour Party won by nearly 6%, that could have been a direct swing from the Lib Dems. But I do think there's probably a mix between the two. But those that are blaming voters that they didn't vote tactically, well, they did, because Labour still got 43% of the vote. Clearly, some voters went from smaller parties to the Labour Party. But also, you can't blame the voters, which is exactly what some on the Labour right are doing. I would say that maybe if the Labour Party were more of a broad church than a hard right clique, they might start doing better in these by-elections. Even though for me that's the biggest focus, the biggest story seems to be Selby and Ainstey, because that was an incredible win. The Labour Party gained 20% of the vote and the Tories lost 25%. All the other parties did marginally the same, so that is clearly a huge swing. But specifically about this seat, it was won by a Keir Mather, who was 25 years old and is the youngest Labour MP. They're calling him the baby of the house. Now, as much as I want younger people in politics, and a lot of people say that, there's not much to be happy about, because this is Keir Mather when he was interviewed after his win.
Keir, the Daily Telegraph. Hi, you've said that we might be on track to a Labour government. Mm-hmm. Would you support that Labour government in its current policy of a 2-child benefit cap?
I support the Labour government in that policy. I think we're going to inherit an absolute economic mess from the Conservatives when we take power. We're going to have to make extremely difficult decisions once we do, and I support the Labour government in doing so 100%.
Now, does that sound like an MP that inspires you? Not really. He sounds like a robot, and he sounds like he's reading from a script. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, all these people on Twitter are attacking a young MP. It's disgusting. Fuck off. This man, he's a man, by the way, 25 isn't a child, is an elected official now. So that comes with the job. You knew what you're doing. At the end of the day, these people make the decisions of this country. So if we can't criticize them based on policy, then what is the point? Others have jumped to his defense. They've said, well, you know, you can't really, it's just been elected. You can't really go against the party line. Can't go against Keir Starmer. Well, why not? What's going to happen? Is he going to try and deselect him? Well, actually, probably. No, I think if you're a backbench MP, you don't have collective responsibility. Backbenchers have the freedom to say what they feel. And if I was him, I'd say, look, I don't agree with all the policies. I think we should extend the benefit cap to 2 people. However, I do trust Keir Starmer's general vision or whatever. Yada, 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 whatever. I mean, that still is a reasonable answer. But no, this is the sort of person and the sort of people that are coming into the Labour Party and coming into politics. But it's not just that he comes across as really wooden, won't delineate from Keir Starmer. This Keir Mather is had a very privileged life so far. Keir Alexander Mather. Now, he was named after Keir Hardie, but no, Keir Starmer was also named after Keir Hardie, so it doesn't mean anything. And then he went on to Oxford. Now, I'm not going to attack people for just going to Oxford. It's good that we're getting more people into Oxford, I guess, if they're from normal backgrounds, but it still tells you what kind of people they are. There are people who went to these prestigious universities and have come out completely fine, but the majority don't, and that's because you end up surrounding yourself by very, very elitist people. So, you know, we shouldn't discourage people from going to these universities, but you should always question it and keep it in mind. But it's his career before politics that waves a massive red flag, and not in a good way. Mather worked as a public affairs advisor for the Confederation of British Industry, the CBI, which is overwhelmingly Tory backing. It's clearly not a working class profession. So I obviously think I want to see more working class heroes in politics. I want to see more working class representation. I don't want to see people who are going through the CBI. He received a Master of Public Policy. He worked as a researcher for The Times and former Conservative MP Matthew Parris. So he was working for a Tory before he became a Labour MP. He studied at Oxford's School of Government as a political leadership scholar in a scheme that was open to applicants from the UK and Republic of Ireland who intend to run for public office. Now, I have a huge issue with that because his family made comments about his election win, said that he had huge ambitions and wanted to be Prime Minister from 6 years old. I don't think we should trust people like that. I don't want people in politics who think at 6 years old want to be Prime Minister of the country, because that tells me they are a careerist, they care about power, they care about climbing to the top. So I think we can categorically expect what this type of MP will be. I don't expect this person to hold power to account. They're just going to do what everyone else does in Parliament. There's only a select few in Parliament who actually do care about the working class. Actually, part of the appeal for me for Jeremy Corbyn was that he didn't want to be Prime Minister. He didn't even want to be Labour leader. He just threw his hat into the ring because he cared about the policies. That's the most important thing. That's the thing that changes our lives. So if someone who their whole lives wanted to be in politics, their whole lives wanted to be a leader, you should be very, very skeptical of that type of person. Now, there's been Tories who have attacked Keir Mather, called him an in-betweener, which is actually quite funny. But his mum came out and said, well, he's the new baby of the house, sprang to his defence, and this is according to the Times, over criticism that he's too young to be an MP, saying that voters are sick of older people telling them what to do. I agree. I am sick and tired of politicians, especially in their 60s, not giving a shit about young people. But just because Keir Mather is young doesn't mean shit. I mean, I want someone to reflect the views of young people, not a 25-year-old sounding like a 61-year-old in politics. You know, look, the reason why we want to have representation in politics isn't just a moral thing. It's not that we don't just want more people of colour, more people from marginalised communities, younger people, not just to say we have these people in there. We want them in there because it's about representation. Most young people are to the left, and actually as they're getting older, they're bucking the trend that you become conservative as you get older. Young people are becoming more left-wing. So overwhelmingly, people who are young are from the left. So I want young people in politics to represent that view, not just a young person sounding like every other politician. Here we go. Here's this nice little gown from Oxford. He was Wes Streeting's parliamentary researcher for 2019 to 2020. So clearly he's had experience from Labour heavyweights.